I'm going to now pass over to Kirsten from Hillerod. I don't know how to say it. She's kindly allowed me to share her slide, so I will do that. And Kirsten, if you'd be willing to begin, I will mute myself and share my screen. Here we are.
Thank you, Shelley, and thank you for the introduction. I will start with introducing my residential home, Ålholmhjemmet, which is on the next slide. Ålholmhjemmet reopened after renovation in 2005. The new home have 46 apartments, and 17 of these apartments are 2 rooms, so couples can live together. Right now, we have 2 couples living at our home. The apartments are divided into 6 houses with 7 to 8 apartments in each house. The residentials are all living with dementia. And during the nights, we have 2 employees working. And in the evening, we have 10 employees working at the house. During the day, we have 2 to 3 employees in each house. And then, of course, we have nurses, activity employees, and managers who work at this house. On the next slide, you can see how we got the idea. I had an employee who went to a fair, and she met someone from Kromavisio who we bought the light from. And she was very interested in what he had to tell about the light, and she could see the idea for the people living with the dementia. So we tried to make an application for a pool, but that wasn't a success. So we waited a couple of years, and then we decided that we really wanted this light. And then we detained occupation of a job position and saved some money so we could buy the light. We bought it in 4 steps. We got it, we've got it in the house in 4 steps, and we bought it over 3 budget years. So we saved the money and then bought some and saved the money and bought the next part. The implementation, well, the 3 steps was, for 3 first steps was in the 6 houses and in the corridors. And then after that, we decided to have it in the offices too, to be sure that the employees understood the effect of this light. We decided that they were not allowed to change the light for the last 2 months. They should keep their fingers off the control panel, as you see on the slide. It was pretty hard in the beginning, but then they accepted it. And after a while, especially the evening and the night shift, start talking about how fantastic it was with this light. The control panel is pretty easy to work with. There's both a painting and some letters so you can read it. So no matter how good you are at the Danish languages, you can either see it or read how to change the lights. And usually we have it on Circadian light, which I surely prefer, but sometimes we change it. During the night, they sometimes have to change it to full light if something extraordinary happens and they need the lights to handle the situation. Then they, of course, turn on the light and then turn it back to Circadian lights afterwards. We can also change it to activity lights, which also is used once in a while. And then we can turn the lights off if we need to do that. The gains of this for us was, we were talking a lot about how to measure the gains. And after 2 months, we asked the employees about the light, and they were really happy about it. The day shift said that they had more energy when they went home from work, and they had less headaches, and generally they were in a better mood. We started with the light in the weekend where you shift from summertime to wintertime. So we can see there's a difference between the effect of the light during the summer and the winter. And that was clearly from the start, but to make sure to get all the employees to think that this was a very good idea, we decided to start where we knew that the effect would be the biggest. The evening shift, well, they sleep earlier when they come home from work. Usually some of them had to wait about 2 hours before they could go to sleep. The whole system had to shut a little bit down and then they could go to sleep. But after we got this new light, they reported back that after 1 hour they could already go to sleep. So they thought it was a very good thing. They also experienced fewer conflicts between the residents during the evening and had a better well-being in general. The night shift, they had quieter nights, and they also slept earlier after work like the evening shift did. On the next slide, the effects of this was, you can see on the picture how the light looks during the night, and the new light were turned on a Friday, and when I came to work on Monday morning, the night workers were very happy. The residents had been more quiet and sleeping during the weekend than they usually were, and that is what they are supposed to do during the night. So the workers were really happy about that. When the residents came out in the corridors, they turned around and went back to the bed in the apartment instead of getting dressed and looking for breakfast. Usually when they stepped out in the corridors, all the light turned on, bright lights, and they thought it was morning. They wanted to get dressed and they wanted some breakfast. So the light helped them to keep the rhythm 24 hours. Usually, no, we also had an old lady in the evening. She found out that this light were nice. So she went down to the house who had this light and laid down on the couch, and the whole system she calmed down and fell asleep. So when the night shift arrived, they followed her down to her apartment and she slept during the night. So for her, she got more hours of sleep because she could calm down and fall asleep already around 9 or 10 o'clock instead of waiting until the night shift came and it was dark and everything. So she had a better day after that because she was getting better sleep. The nurses, they wanted to work nights in the house where we had this new light, so they started rotating. So before we got it in all the 6 houses, every 3 nights they went to a house where we had this night light, and then they had 2 nights with daylight, and they could feel the difference when they went home in the morning and had to go to sleep, and their well-being were different depending on what night they had been on. After 3 years, the light broke down. We were hit by the lightning, so it broke down. And then the employees then sent me a mail, not a nice mail. They were very upset, and it wasn't okay that they didn't have this light. And that told me that for them, it had been something, it was giving at that point for them that of course they had this light and they had the right to have this light because they worked during the night shift. The challenges in all this is during the evening employees, they turned on the lights when they had to document, so the light was shifting too much. So we had bright light when they were documenting, and then they went back to the more calm evening light. So we had a talk with them, and they tried working without turning on the bright lights when they documented, and that made a difference for both the employees but also the people living in the house. The residents, they are also in the evening sometimes put to bed too early, so they went to bed before the sun got down, and so they didn't have the real effect of it in the evenings. But during the night, when they then woke up and got out, they had the effect. They are still going to bed a little bit too early, but some of them have the effect and some don't. And then, of course, the control panel, we had to learn the employees that they should keep the fingers away from the panel, because the best light is when it just goes as it's supposed to from the computer and the way we decided it to go. So altogether, we are very happy about the light. And when we get new employees, especially during the evening and the night shift, they, after a few days, they comment on the light because they think it's a better environment to work in for them. So yes, Shelley, that was what I had.
What a fascinating and inspiring chat. It really brings a lot of this to life, because behind all the studies, there are real human beings